You're listening to the Entrepreneurs Radio Network show on the Vets on Media Network.
I looked out this morning and the sun was gone. Turned on some music to start my day. Lost myself in a new song. I closed my eyes and I slipped away.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world today. I'm Brian Hazelgren along with Shane Chance, and you have joined us on the Entrepreneurs Radio Network. This is the show for entrepreneurs. This is the show for business owners who are looking to expand their business, those who may be looking to launch a new business, and those who are looking to grow their current operations. But for the really cool thing about today's show, we are actually live on remote, and we are at Nexus Steel today. Nexus Steel is a great company here in the Valley of the Sun, and they have decided to have us on location at their really cool facility. Shane, do you like this facility? Is this cool?
This is actually really awesome. They were kind of giving us a little bit of a tour earlier and showing us some of the different things that they've actually like taken their entire building and made it their work. And it is really a cool building. You got to come check this out.
Yeah, I really like this. And
Yeah.
and Nexus Steel, if you want to ever also look them up, they're in Gilbert, Arizona. So I'm looking at these barnyard doors and all the steel structures, and we are literally in a very cool conference room in a steel cage. And there is no MMA fighting today, by the way.
It was somebody's idea of an April Fool's joke.
Very cool. So Nexus Steel, thank you for having us on remote today. So you've tuned into the right place. And once again, if you want to learn a little bit more about how to run your business more successfully, you want to get some of the tools of the trade, this is where we share insightful and fun information about how to run a business in what we feel is a successful manner, give you some of the tools to help you build a legacy. And I also want to make sure that, as we always do in the beginning of the show, we give a big shout out to our military personnel and their family members who support them for their sacrifices. Our veterans, our active duty military personnel, thank you again for keeping us free. And as a nation that is always the beacon on the hill for others to look to. So thank you very much for your service. And thank you again for all of the entrepreneurs who have done so many things around the world, not just here in America, but around the world, who actually create jobs, who create opportunities for people to go work for a small business, and for the entrepreneurs who have sacrificed their own time and their own money and lots of other things along the way to build a legacy. So thank you, entrepreneurs, as well. Last week, Shane, we talked about raising capital. We gave a few ideas about what it's like to raise capital in today's market. We also answered a few questions along the way that I think were pretty important, because I've received several emails and phone calls from people that were grateful that we discussed the questions that veterans are going to, that investors are going to ask for and want to have answers to. We also talked briefly about sources of capital. Have you gotten any feedback this past week of some of the things we talked about in raising capital and finding the right type of capital for your company or for any company?
It was really interesting, because one of the things that got brought up quite a bit was the fact that we pointed out different investors are looking for different types of things and businesses and people to invest in.
Right.
So when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you do the research and make sure that that's beneficial to you and to the person that you're asking to invest into, because they are actually going to invest in something that is along their line. Also, the other thing that came up a lot, and I think it was a big eye opener for me, I say that, was that some of them start really, really with as little as investing $1,000. I think most people, when they think about capital and they think about getting money for their business, are always thinking in the really big numbers. And I think it was really important and I heard that there was really important for a lot of people to know that there were investors out there, even if they just needed a small amount of money to get going. It was a real good kickstart for them.
Yeah, one of the companies that we started quite a while ago was a manufacturing business, and we had well, I put my own money into it in the beginning, but then we also wrote a business plan. We only needed at the time, this was back in the mid '90s, we only needed about $10,000 to get us launched.
Yep.
We launched with $10,000 and fulfilled our business plan, which is another topic that we've discussed.
Yep.
But we took that $10,000 and turned that into a company that was a little over $6 million a year in manufacturing in a few brief years. Now that's not, by any stretch of the means, a huge amount of money, but when you started from nothing, and by the time we sold it, it was a great little company, and we were manufacturing some pretty cool products.
And you were probably also being able to answer that one important question that every investor wants.
What's that return on my investment, and when?
Do I get
So,
it back?
yeah, when am I going to get it back? So we did answer that question, and not only through just answering the question through verbs, it was through actions too. So
Nice.
anyway, so last week, or the last show that we put together, was all about raising capital, and hopefully you've gone on to the Vets on Media website to view our show. There's some downloadable materials there that you can also pick up, and they are for free. So as that leads into today's segment, it's really important. And by the way, we probably should be doing a lot of April Fool's jokes today.
As long
So-
as they're not on me.
So, folks, just so that if you happen to see a bucket of water just dumped down on top of Shane, just know that it wasn't facetious. It's just April Fool's Day, and I got to do something, right? So,
That's okay. I called Adam before we ever got here, so you're in big trouble.
okay. Well, today we want to focus on our employees. As small business owners, we have employees that they are the lifeblood of our company. They are our true assets. They are the individuals who make the company work and make the company grow. They are the assets that we can't live without. Unless you're just a sole proprietor, a sole operator, if you're running an online business and that's all you need is you, or if I don't know, even in the service businesses, if it's just you, then just realize that there's more people that are involved. Even, I think about the real estate market, a real estate broker, let's just say a real estate agent. It's them going out there, making things happen, closing the sales. However, they can't close the sales and move that sale through the process if there aren't other employees within the real estate company, within the mortgage company, within the title companies that they deal with. So the list goes on and on. The employees are the lifeblood, even to make that sole proprietor, the real estate agent, be successful. So really, wherever we're at some point, we're going to have to interact with, if they're not our employees directly, they are employees of another company in order to make it work.
Yep.
So today we want to talk about hiring employees. Shane has an enormous wealth of information on not only training companies on how to hire the right employee up front, but also how to steer clear away from hiring the wrong employee, and kind of weeding out those bad apples even before they become a problem. And today we want to focus a little bit on some of us as business owners have a great opportunity to have an amazing HR department inside our organization, but they may not be on our payroll. That HR manager may not be on our payroll. And so we thought what we would do is talk briefly about the PEO space, or professional employment organization space. And that is actually outsourcing HR functions.
Right, which with different companies, that actually might be a wiser route to go. Now, it doesn't work for everyone, but there are a lot of companies that would make more sense to them, and they may not even be aware of it as an option.
And as that option, what we've learned in our own businesses, and even doing some more research, and we will have an expert on the show today in just a little while, because we don't have all the answers as PEOs. We do have some of the answers as business owners. We have some of the answers that we can at least steer clear of. And I just knocked the bottle over. again, we're remote. This is something not familiar to Brian. And so Brian was a little bit of a klutz there, but at least I'll pick up my water in a minute. But I think one of the areas that we really want to focus on today is back to Shane's expertise and our guest in just a minute. And that's how to hire the right employee, how to not hire the wrong employee. And then how do we figure out this mix of outsourcing HR functions so that it works for our business, not just from a standpoint of making our business more effective and more efficient, but how about how we execute and even look at the numbers? I mean, you're going to hear today that there's some amazing options out there that don't cost a fortune and that are way less expensive. Sometimes when you do the outsourcing up front as you're starting to grow and you see how your business needs to take on additional employees and background checks that have to be done that you may not have the bandwidth to do, or that you may not find the time to do, that could end up biting you down the road. Or what about even doing payroll and sending out payroll taxes and putting all those things together? So that's part of the PEO world that we're sort of familiar with and understand it a little bit to the point of knowing how it works as business owners. But we want to talk directly to our expert who's going to be in studio with us today, who actually does this for a living day to day.
Right. And one of the things that we often make mistakes as a small business is that we have a tendency to not know. We don't know.
Right.
So when we don't know, we could be making costly mistakes within our business, and they aren't something that we need to be making, but we do because we just aren't aware, again, of the options that are out there, the things that can be provided or that we can be helped with as we're going down that road of growing and developing our business. And a PEO could be one of those options.
I want to tell you a quick story. We had an opportunity. Let me go back to our manufacturing business that I was mentioning earlier. We had an opportunity to hire, at the time we were hiring about 30 employees. And there was this one person that was from a different state that wanted to help run the route that we were putting together. And again, these were for particular different types of vending machines. And I told this individual that here's what your responsibilities will be. Here's how we'll go about doing this. I asked several questions. We even did some background checks, and he passed those. Well, interestingly enough, Shane has made this point time and time again on previous shows. Trust your instinct. Okay, so I had an instinct at the time that I thought maybe this guy isn't really who he says he is, but he seems to be aggressive and wants to go out and do this work for us. We hired him, and within about 45 days, I started learning that there was a challenge with some of the numbers. They weren't adding up. And the next thing we know, we started looking at the books and what he's turning in, and basically what he claimed that he turned in, and he was falsifying reports.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, we learned that he had stolen a bunch of money from him. Now, this was a cash business, so back then it was sort of easy to pilfer and steal.
Pocket a little bit of spare change.
But it came back to my gut feeling that, or my instinct, that we needed to do something different and maybe not hire him, but we were going so fast. We were just blowing and going, and we were putting these routes together and manufacturing all these different machines, and the company was growing quickly, and I didn't take the time to listen to my own instinct. How do we get around that as well? It's one of the questions we have to throw out there.
You know what? Sometimes I think when it comes right down to that, and it's really, really hard, especially when you get a business and you get really excited and really motivated and it's really growing fast, and you want to make sure that you have, butts in the seats, if you will, and people doing what needs to be done. And as a result, we have a tendency to maybe push aside or downplay the need to make sure that we take the time that it takes to hire a good employee so that we're not having to take time later to eliminate a bad one. And
Great point.
as hard as it is to do that, we really want to be able to be in a position of moving forward. We don't want to be, slowed down by the hiring process. We just want to get people there. And we assume that because they're there, they're interested, they're eager. We forget that there are on occasion people who have hidden agendas. And that's what we're on the lookout for when we're hiring, is those with the hidden agendas.
Excellent point. Folks, when we come back from break, we are going to bring on our special guest today. She is an expert in this area. Her name is Dre Carson. She's a good friend of ours, and she knows this business really, really well. And Shane knows this business a whole lot better than I do. So I may just kind of kick back and not do a whole lot in the next segment. Just let those two talk.
Turn it over to the women.
Turn over to the women and we'll all be successful. But we'll bring Dre on as our special guest today in just a moment. For now, my name is Brian Hazelgren. I'm with Shane Chance. You are listening to the Entrepreneurs Radio Network.
Everyone's going to need an attorney at some point in their life. I'm no different. Hey everyone, it's James from Vets On. Whether it was my last will and testament before deployment or my ongoing custody battle for my children during my divorce, I needed help, so I lawyered up. If you need help, I urge you to contact Capstrom Law Firm. Capstrom Law Firm in Springfield, Missouri services clients throughout the state in criminal law, personal injury, and family law. With over 13 years practicing law, Tom Capstrom understands both law and court procedures and how stressful they can be. Let Tom Capstrom Law Firm and his dedicated staff take the stress and worry out of a difficult situation by calling him today. We feel so strong about the work that Tom and his staff are doing that he'll be a monthly guest on the show. Tom is a veteran and a listener, for God's sake, so you know the guy is solid and will fight for you. Give Tom a call today by calling 417-864-0552. Or email Tom at capstromlaw.com. And don't forget to tell him that Vets On sent you.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertising.
If you or someone you know is looking for a new job or career, you need to visit the pros. National Career Fairs at ncfairs.com. National Career Fairs hosts over 300 career fairs a year nationwide. The events are free and give you the perfect chance to meet some of the top employers in your area face-to-face. To find the nearest career fair to you, visit ncfairs.com. Again, that's ncfairs.com. What are you waiting for?
Veterans served us, now it's time we serve them. As a veteran of Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as a current military member deployed abroad, I would like to take a minute of your time to tell you about Patriot Hills of New York. Patriot Hills of New York is a nonprofit organization providing support to veterans and their families. They partner veterans in need with over 65 health and wellness organizations, community groups, as well as philanthropic foundations providing no or low-cost services. They've helped over 400 veterans through confidential referral services, assistance with veterans issues, employment placement, as well as educational opportunities. If you need assistance or just want to help veterans by donating your time or services, contact them at info@patriothills.org. Again, that's info@patriothills.org. Visit patriothillsofnewyork.com for more information about their services or how you can donate. Our veterans deserve no less. We can give it to them, and you can help.
You're listening to the Entrepreneurs Radio Network show on the Vets On Media Network.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Hazelgren. I'm here with Shane Chance again on your show about entrepreneurship. And we have a special guest with us today. She is actually an expert in this area of PEO space. And she's a good friend of ours. And by the way, for those of you that are looking on camera, this is Dre Carson. Those of you that are listening in, we are grateful for you to be able to be a part of this next segment, because Dre is not only a business advisor and an entrepreneur herself, she has launched 8 startups over her career. She specializes in business development, operations, and human resources outsourcing. And that's the key for today's program. But she works with all types of businesses, all sizes of businesses in multiple different markets. She's there to help improve productivity and profitability. So we like that, make us all more efficient, more effective, help us execute better. But she can do that while reducing expenses. And not only reducing expenses, even reducing liability. When she first sat down, she said, "Oh, good, look, there's the compliance posters," and you can't see that on the air, but or Adam will show you. Anyway, there's all the compliance posters, and it's for 4 different states, no less. So she loved that as an HR person. She got that really well. So Dre, welcome to the show today. We're grateful that you're here.
Yes, thank you for having me here.
Good to see you again.
Now, just a little bit further, Dre's company that she works with literally manages I want to make sure I got this number right, manages over 80,000 employees through the PEO world
Yes.
and over 700 different client companies.
Yes.
So you do know this space a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
this,
do.
this is
We've
not,
been in business
not something
for over
new to
20
you.
years, so
Okay.
we're it's not our first rodeo.
Well, we like that.
great.
And you know, one of the areas that Dre has always educated Shane and I on is really 4 areas of the professional employment organization or PEO world.
Mhm.
And I want to cover those. Shane and I want to cover those for just a minute and have you talk about the human resource side, the payroll side, the benefits, and even the workers' comp side. Why are those only the 4 that we should focus on, first of all?
Well, they encompass everything. That's why. So
Okay.
we like to keep things simple because HR can be very complex.
Yes.
But if you just think about like your human capital is another term that we use. If you just think about it as a box, right? And it has 4 corners. The first corner is everything having to do with the transactional side of human resources. So it has to do with, sourcing the right candidates, bringing them on board, that whole onboarding process, maintaining compliance, labor law posters. Do you have a handbook, job descriptions, all these things that are completely boring. They have nothing to do with the uniqueness of the business itself, meaning the industry. They're just things that have to get done, right? They make nobody money doing them, but if you don't do those things, it can cost you tremendous money, right?
Mhm.
So we take care of that part, the tactical, administrative junk, that's associated with all that stuff, right?
The junk nobody wants to do but
Nobody
has to be
wants
done.
to do.
Wait a minute. Why was she looking right at me? What's the deal with that?
I joke. I often say that HR is like dirty laundry. We all have it. Nobody really likes to do it, and then the longer we wait, the worse it gets.
Worse it
right?
gets.
So
That's
we
a good-
handle that kind of
Good
stuff.
analogy. I like that.
The other corner of the HR box has to do with the risk management. It has to do with workers' comp. So this may or may not, depending on the industry that you're in, be a big focus. But things like back to work protocols, maintaining OSHA logs, understanding fraudulent worker comp claims, those types of things. We see that they fall through the cracks a lot with a smaller size business because nobody's specifically, designated to handle that. And maybe it's not something that's a day-to-day issue. And so when they do come up, they're not handled properly. And so
Is that mostly because we either don't take the time or we feel like we don't have the bandwidth to either follow up or do the right background checks, or like in my case, when we were just moving so quickly, we hired the person, but I didn't listen to my gut instinct. And there's so much that we have to deal with in the HR space that it can be the gotchas that come back
I
and
think
get
that,
you
yeah.
later on.
Well, I think it's again back to that we don't know what we don't know.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, you had mentioned that earlier, and I thought, yep, So it's like me saying, I know how to add, so I can be an accountant, right? I know how to use social media on Facebook, so I can be a digital marketer. Just because you can do certain things, right, doesn't mean that you know the whole industry, right? And so we see often
Very good
in
point.
companies that they have their controller handling these things, their office manager, or they have someone internally in their staff, maybe a spouse if it's a smaller business. And look, there's an entire industry dedicated to HR outsourcing, right?
Yes.
We've built an entire business on it. So
Absolutely.
there's serious stuff. You want people who are trained and understand these different components of the business. You want them on your team, right? So the third corner would be your benefits administration as well. So that has to do with like medical benefits or voluntary type benefits, 125 plans, 401ks, those things that you want to get positioned to make you an employer of choice. And when you're a small business, you're really trying to attract and retain that top talent. And, you're having to compete with larger companies that have funds to be able to give their employees these types of benefits. So what do? Well, when you partner with a company like ours, you have access to our buying power. So we're not shopping for 20 employees or 50 employees or 100. We have tens of thousands of employees that we are shopping for. So you think we have some sort of, price advantage? Yes, absolutely. So that's one component. And then administering all of that? You know, how do you deal with when people have questions about their insurance plans or their 401ks? You know, who's handling that?
Mhm.
If someone internally in your staff's handling that, it's pulling them away from doing things that are revenue generators for your business. And so we lift that burden off as well.
And so we're since our show is literally global, and we've got a lot of listeners in throughout the country. It's not just here in Arizona. Do your services span the globe? Well, let's at least say span the country, and it doesn't. So your folks internally, when they take on a new client, for example, in Arizona, need to understand the Arizona law versus the California law versus the Vermont law,
Oh,
wherever it may
absolutely.
be. And you've got experts on staff to help that small business in that local market.
Yeah, so we literally have staff members that all they do is dedicate their time and energy and resources to understanding the Affordable Care Act or FMLA or FSA law, you know, and we've got SPHR certified, which is the highest certification that HR reps have. They understand in more depth the specific states that their clients are in.
Mhm.
So when it comes to like where we currently are licensed, we are licensed in all 50 states. We have client companies in 38 of those states as we speak. And we do payroll. That's that fourth box or corner of the box. We do handle payroll on a global scale if it makes sense. A lot of times companies that have minority dollars allocated towards certain contracts and things like that, they'll look at us because we are MBE certified. So they'll look at us for doing their payroll, let's say for a call center that's located outside of the United States.
So for the listeners, cover MBE. What does that mean?
It's a minority business.
Right.
Right. Absolutely.
Minority business enterprise.
Mhm.
So Dre, do you find
Good
with,
job.
yeah, do you find
Like
with
that.
when you're dealing with some of this stuff and people maybe finally come to you, have they made a lot of mistakes? Are there a lot of things that have cost them a lot of money by the time they decide to approach you that they could have been saved had they decided to use you in the beginning?
Well, we like to be proactive. So as business advisors, we're constantly piquing interest within the marketplaces that each of us are in throughout the United States. We're piquing interest in business owners or key executives to understand that there is a solution to be preventative, right?
Sure.
I think, unfortunately, human nature is that when there's an issue that arises, people scramble to get a solution, right? So a lot of times clients do engage us because something's come up that was out of their bandwidth, or through a conversation we uncover issues that they had in the past that they could have avoided, but they didn't know that the solution was out there.
Right.
I mean, listen, the reality is that I used to own a financial firm, and we grew that from 6 to 60 internal employees. And I had no idea you could outsource your human resources. I mean, we had no business being in that business. We were financial planners. And we were very good at what we did, but there were some things now, knowing what I do know, that I just think we were blessed that some major issue didn't come about because there were a lot of holes.
So it comes back to the we don't know what we don't know. How do we find out what we don't know? I mean, in your space, is there a good way to find out? Is information online? Is there information that, I mean, so that we can learn more as small business owners or people who are interested in going into business, so that we don't make those costly mistakes in the very beginning that may slow us down or maybe kill us altogether because we didn't realize, again, back to the we didn't know what we didn't know. What would you recommend to a small business in order to find out some of these things that are offered?
First of all, have a conversation with someone that's in our space, in the PEO space, and you have to understand, every company, PEOs are just like restaurants. All restaurants have food, they all have beverages, but every restaurant is different.
Sure.
And so when you're looking at different companies, there's some key things that you should be aware of. Are they a high touch company? Like, do they get really involved in an interpersonal level with their clients? when you're calling in, if you're, let's just address the 50 and under group. If your employee size groups, if you're calling in, are you talking to a call center, or are you talking to somebody who is specifically assigned to your account? Are you in a situation where you've linked up with a company that has a lot of turnover? You don't want to be with a PEO that's turning over their internal employees a lot, right? If they're
Right.
supposed to be trying to make you an employer of choice, what's going on inside?
Right.
So their own employee retention is something of point. And then also, what does their technologies look like? So interview the companies, but also ask to see a tech demo. Do they own their technologies? Are they leasing it from another company? How flexible is it to integrate with softwares that you have? I don't think that business owners realize that they can actually have their entire business on a cloud, up there.
Floating in space.
Floating in space. But they can track.
I know you've accused me of having my head in the cloud. So is that the same thing?
Well,
That's the
this
same
might
thing.
be a perfect fit for you, Ryan.
Okay.
So
I need perfect fits. I'm the dork in the group here, so I need to get my head out of the cloud.
But educating yourself, our company, we do a great job of having our website be a resource. I tell all my friends, look, go on there, opt in, watch the webinars, read the case studies. There's a lot out there that's educational based.
So one of the things that we as business owners probably don't fully understand, and that is, how do we pay independent contractors versus part-time employees versus full-time employees? Not only what do we pay them, what taxes do we need to take out, what forms do we need to file, what insurance? Yeah, see, everybody's getting a headache just listening just to a few things. What about even insurance that we're supposed to provide? Let's talk a little bit about that, and business owners, how they need to understand the differences between a contractor versus a part-time employee versus a full-time employee, and how the PEO services will actually work together
Right.
to help them.
Right. So a very, very, very common mistake business owners, especially like smaller business owners, and then we can even go a step further and say certain industries even, is that they misclassify people. They put them as independent contractors rather than employees. And let's face it, it's cheaper and it's simpler because they don't have all those taxes that you just talked about. They don't have to maintain workers' comp insurance. They don't have to abide by the ACA, the Affordable Care Act compliance statutes now that are out there. So they may not have to, provide medical insurance. It's just, the list goes on and on and on. And, they can just budget for paying the contractor whatever their fees are, and not that 15-20% gross up that happens when you layer in Social Security and everything else like that. Okay.
And it is gross.
Yeah, it's so disgusting. The challenge is that if you're caught, there are huge fines that you have to pay. And then there's back employment taxes that you'll have to pay.
It could literally sink a company.
It can sink a company in a very bad way. So we try and cut corners, and it can cost us huge. So there's a couple things though that the IRS, they used to have this list, this ongoing list of how to tell if somebody's really an independent contractor or should they be an employee. And they've narrowed it down. And so there's like 3 areas: behavioral control, financial control, and relationship. So on the behavioral control, and you can, if you're listening, you have independent contractors, think about these things yourself. Does the company control or have the right to control what, when, how the work is done? Okay. Are the business aspects of the worker's job controlled by the payer? For the financial control, those are things like how the worker's paid, whether expenses are reimbursed, who provides the tools and supplies. So if you're giving them a computer, they're going like away on trips and you're reimbursing them for flight. I mean, these are all little things that can play into it. The relationship, are there written contracts in place? Are there employee type benefits? So are you slipping them some extra money to pay for their health insurance? So the easiest thing to do is to think about a contractor as a vendor. So think
Yep.
about, am I treating this individual the same way I treat someone who came in and painted my house?
Right. Okay.
Very good.
Sounds
This-
like we maybe need to get a list of those so that we can post those online. People can kind of take a look at that.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
Absolutely.
In fact, some of the other things that you touched on the 4 boxes, and we've talked a little bit about some of the mistakes that we make as business owners. What about looking at some of the other things that could be, the area where you and Shane work really well, and that's finding that employee that isn't going to fit in the company for one reason or another. And what do we do? What questions do we ask? Aside from understanding what our initial instinct is, and I didn't follow mine once and paid a heavy price for it. What do we do when we are interviewing those employees to come to work for us? What do we start looking for? What are some of the red flags that you two have seen in the HR industry? What does that look like?
Go. You first.
Well, there are certain assessments that are available. So we make available to our clients assessments that they can give to help gauge a better understanding of that prospect's decision-making process, their type of personality, their ability to deal with whatever kind of situations that specific job may present. And then there are certain questions that you can ask them. You'd be surprised as well. In the pre-screening process, there's actually software that we have that can help do candidate sourcing, where they upload their resume, they answer some simple questions, but they can even click on a button and you say, I'd like you to answer these questions verbally, or I'd like you to read this script, or I'd like you to use a webcam. And you can do a lot of this stuff without even talking to them, and then identify really who you want to have your internal staff spend that hour with. It's an investment of your time to find the right candidate. And so going that extra mile and doing, after you've decided between 2 or 3 candidates, having them take these assessments, it's worth the time to do. So many times I talk to employers and they don't even call references.
Oh, no, not at all. That's a problem we've definitely had to deal with in the past. That's for sure.
I mean, think about it. We ask our prospects to give us 3 or 5 references. These are people that should be singing the praises of this employee and saying, this is like top-notch, individual. You'd be crazy not to hire this person. So let's call them and see what their response is, and do our due diligence, right?
Well, and that is actually critical. That was one of the things I seriously have had experiences and examples where people have not even gone through and read the entire application. They didn't notice that people didn't fill certain aspects out, or they didn't look at to realize that every single phone number was the exact same phone number. And when you call that number, it's like, been disconnected or whatever. So really it does come down to taking the time to make sure that you invest those few minutes in the beginning so that you're not investing hours and weeks and months at the end when it comes time to let this person go because they turned out. I had somebody come up to me when we were having a conversation about this, and they said, isn't this like stereotyping? And I said, you know what, as an employer, you have the right to identify who is going to work best with your company, who is going to work best with the people that you are going to be instigating, and who's going to be representing you as a company, as an employer, as whatever. So that definitely is a critical thing, and I think we'll touch base a little bit on that after the break when we come back. But definitely make sure that you take that time in the beginning.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the areas that I think is interesting too is when you're a small business owner, maybe they've heard this conversation. They're starting to think, okay, this is kind of cool. I maybe need to I want to know more about this, but it sounds like it's expensive. And I think maybe we want to cover that when we get back.
Okay.
Find out what this will cost. And for now, I'm Brian Hazelgren along with Shane Chance, and we have Dre Carson here in studio with us. Grateful to have you on board with us today. We'll be right back.
Veterans served us. Now it's time we serve them. As a veteran of Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as a current military member deployed abroad, I would like to take a minute of your time to tell you about Patriot Hills of New York. Patriot Hills of New York is a nonprofit organization providing support to veterans and their families. They partner veterans in need with over 65 health and wellness organizations, community groups, as well as philanthropic foundations providing no or low-cost services. They've helped over 400 veterans through confidential referral services, assistance with veterans issues, employment placement, as well as educational opportunities. If you need assistance or just want to help veterans by donating your time or services, contact them at info@patriothills.org. Again, that's info@patriothills.org. Visit patriothillsnewyork.com for more information about their services or how you can donate. Our veterans deserve no less. We can give it to them, and you can help. Everyone's going to need an attorney at some point in their life. I'm no different. Hey, everyone, it's James from Vets On. Whether it was my last will and testament before deployment or my ongoing custody battle for my children during my divorce, I needed help, so I lawyered up. If you need help, I urge you to contact Capstrom Law Firm. Capstrom Law Firm in Springfield, Missouri services clients throughout the state in criminal law, personal injury, and family law. With over 13 years practicing law, Tom Capstrom understands both law and court procedures and how stressful they can be. Let Tom Capstrom Law Firm and his dedicated staff take the stress and worry out of a difficult situation by calling him today. We feel so strong about the work that Tom and his staff are doing that he'll be a monthly guest on the show. Tom is a veteran and a listener, for God's sake, so you know the guy is solid and will fight for you. Give Tom a call today by calling 417-864-0552. or email Tom at capstromlaw.com. And don't forget to tell him that Vets On sent you.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertising.
If you or someone you know is looking for a new job or career, you need to visit the pros. National Career Fairs at ncfairs.com. National Career Fairs hosts over 300 career fairs a year nationwide. The events are free and give you the perfect chance to meet some of the top employers in your area face-to-face. To find the nearest career fair to you, visit ncfairs.com. Again, that's ncfairs.com. What are you waiting for?
You're listening to the Entrepreneurs Radio Network show on the Vets On Media Network.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Hazelgren here with Shane Chance and Dre Carson. We are talking about some fun things that entrepreneurs need to know about, and that is the HR portion of our business and why it would be a good idea to, even in the beginning stages and even at a larger company, look at outsourcing some of your HR functions, if not all of it, to a professional employment organization such as the one that Dre works for, and why that is so important. And right before we went to break, we talked a little bit about cost, that sometimes as we hear all these services that can be provided, we as small business owners are always looking at the bottom line. Pardon me. Always looking at the bottom line on how we're supposed to be saving money so that we can be efficient and effective and execute better. However, all that teamwork issue has a cost associated with it. By the way, I do have to say something about teamwork. I normally don't wear that ring that you guys see, but I wore it today because it's a national championship ring. I played on a national championship football team a long time ago when I had hair and I could run faster. But I wore that today, and Matt certainly understands that. If only you could turn the camera around and see Matt. There you go. How you doing, Matt? Oh, our younger days, right? Anyway, I wore this ring today because as we talk about teamwork, I remember the state championship teams I played for, and even this national championship team of football. It was always the team that looked out after each other, that always had each other's back, that was always looking to just do your job. You do your job really well, and I'll do my job really well. And hopefully we'll bring all this together, and we're going to check our egos and our arrogance at the door, and we're going to make this as a team environment. And it was those teams that won the state championships in high school or the national championships in college. And then, of course, I got hurt too many times and I couldn't go on to the next level, but that's another story for another day. But as far as teamwork goes, we have this cost issue that we're looking at as small business owners, and we're saying to ourselves, all right, this is a pretty cool team that we can bring on. Dre has some awesome concepts, but as the business owner, I got to look at the bottom line. Is this going to cost me a whole lot more than actually going out and hiring an HR manager? Why would I want to employ the services of a PEO?
Yeah, those are all very, very valid questions. They're questions I'd be asking myself. If you were to bring on, so the way our company works, for example, is that we literally assign you a specific person in each of those 4 departments that I talked about. And then you get one that oversees all 4 of them. So you have 5 people on your team. Just one of them, bringing him in-house, would cost you 6 figures, right? And then not to mention all the technologies that we offer. That's a tremendous expense.
And you're able to spread that across the 700 plus clients that you have.
We totally spread it across.
Okay.
And what that results in is that a small business that has 10, 15 employees literally has the same type of services that our 200, 300 groups have access to. And it's not costing them any more, right? And so, there is a significant cost associated with not being in compliant, right? One of my things that I love is I cannot save you money on what you're not already spending. Okay, so if you're not doing these things and you're not spending money on them, I can't save you any money.
Right.
But statistics show that for a company between 20 and 500 employees, that they're spending about $5,000 a year per employee on all this HR stuff. And so there is already a cost inherent, even though. And
are you finding that small business owners don't take the time to figure that out? They don't really have the time or don't take the time to understand what it costs?
It's top of mind for them. A small business owner gets into business because they have a concept or an idea or a service that they're passionate about, and that's what they want to do. They're not thinking about all this other stuff. And so I don't think it's that they don't want to take the time. I think it's that they just don't know. And for us, for literally, they're already outsourcing something. Right? Businesses already typically outsource payroll, either to a payroll company or to like their accountant or something. They're outsourcing some sort of benefits to an insurance broker. They're absolutely outsourcing workers' comp because they have to have it to another person. They're outsourcing legal counsel if they have questions. They're outsourcing all these different places. What this concept says is just bring it all together, outsource to one team. And I will add that if you are outsourcing and you have a feeling that you are outsourcing, you're with the wrong company.
Gotcha.
You should not feel like you have outsourced and you have a disconnect, right? People associate that with a disconnect. You should have a feeling that you've insourced, that your team is just located somewhere else. And so for a business of 5 or 10 employees, for literally less than what they would pay a front desk minimum wage office administrator, they can have all 5 of these at their beck and call.
Wow.
That is awesome. It's really crazy because I think the way the world works is that we all have people that are interested in different things or talents in different things. And honestly, you could have the best idea on the planet, but if you are not skilled or talented in some of these areas, which we mentioned very few people are in all of these areas, then you're going to be struggling all along, and you're going to be so busy trying to figure out what it is that you don't know so that you can fix it within the company, that you're not moving the company forward in the way that it really needed to be. So when somebody is interested in possibly taking on a PEO and using them and the benefits that can come with using a PEO, if that makes sense for them, what are some of the questions that they should ask you when they're, I mean, I know you mentioned a few things up front about, the technology and understanding that piece and whether or not it jives with the technology that you're currently using. But what are interview questions if somebody wanted to do a PEO, what should they ask?
So it's really it was really great. I'm thinking of one client of mine in particular that we signed last year, and they were so honest with us about all the internal stuff that was going on, and that was great.
TMI, no.
we love that. I mean, they were throwing one angle to another angle at us.
You got a lot of dirty laundry. Is that what you're saying?
It was like I don't even think they owned a laundry machine.
Wow.
But they were testing us. They were saying, how is it that you would handle these things? And we just got, I'm not the person that deals with day-to-day operations. So I just got the person that I would have assigned to their account on the phone with them and let him drill, our HR specialist who just was not even shaken. Because see, the issue is that they seem like big problems to the business owner. They may even seem like a big problem to the internal HR person if maybe they've only worked at 2 or 3 other companies and they've never seen this before or they've never experienced a situation. But we have hundreds of companies.
Right.
So there's very few situations that we have not already seen.
Right.
So it's something that a business owner may think is like a big hurdle, may not be that big of a hurdle. So interview the people that will be assigned to your account and see their skill set, right? Another thing that I would say is ask these companies what they do to be proactive. I mean, I've heard horror stories where companies were sued because and it was over an issue that, in my opinion, they were with a PEO, and in my opinion, that PEO should have covered that. Like, there's no reason why that employer should be sued. But the PEO got off on saying, oh, well, you never asked us.
Oh,
You never asked us to review this. You never
Back to that teamwork issue.
So they deferred guilt.
deferred guilt, right? And so the bottom line,
We're going to start writing all of these little things that we come up with.
Deferred
Deferred guilt.
Sounds like a book. Is that a book or a movie coming out?
I'll work on it.
you want a team to be you don't want to be sitting there and having your quarterback on the team looking at his line saying, why didn't you help me, prevent me from getting sacked? Why did you? And
they blame
can you
game.
imagine if one of them
blame
turned up
game.
and said, well, you didn't ask me to. Come on. That's your job.
Like I said, do
very
your
good
job
point.
and I'll do my job.
Be proactive. And the last thing, to circle back with the pricing, right? Please make sure you're with a company that has transparent pricing. A lot of times companies may say percentage of payroll, and they junk everything together. Your state unemployment taxes in there, and you've got all your different federal taxes, you've got your workers' comp. Well, when you work with a PEO, a couple things may fluctuate, right? Your workers' comp may be higher or lower, your student rates may be higher or lower because of our bandwidth, our purchasing power, and who we actually manage HR for. And so those things, you want to be clear, what is your specific rates that you're being given, right? And then what am I really paying for HR? For the HR administrative component, what am I paying? Because if it's a percentage of payroll, in my opinion, what will happen is when you give your internal staff a raise, you're also giving your PEO a raise. So slowly over the year, you're sitting there going, why am I paying more money for this PEO? See, when it's transparent pricing, it is what it is.
Right.
You're paying this regardless of whether you're having minimum wage employees or all 6-figure employees. So we've seen significant cost reductions available for clients if they transition from that type of a pay arrangement into just a straight transparent pricing.
Excellent.
That's good to know.
That's very
really
good to know. I love that. In fact, since this is such awesome information that you've been sharing with the audience and us today, how would people get a hold of you, Dre, if they have any further questions? Where can we steer them to? How can they reach you by email?
I can give 2 different ways. First, my email, which is acarson, ACARSON, @GNA. So the letter G, the letter N, the letter A, partners, and that's plural.com. So acarson @gnapartners.com. They can email me. The other thing is they can just go to my personal website. That may be easier for them to remember, Dray Carson, DRAYCARSON.com. And then just go to contact and they can fill out that little form and contact me and just mention this show. Anyone who's listening to this show, we are very happy just to extend an offer of a complimentary HR review at absolutely no cost.
That's
to
good because I
listeners.
was just going to ask that.
So thanks for volunteering.
So make mention of the show.
Thanks for being
and-
proactive.
Yes, we strive to be proactive.
That's right.
I love that. This is excellent. There's so many things that we just don't think about as small business owners. Obviously, we're wearing 13 hats, sometimes 19 hats, could be 30 hats every day. Hopefully, we can take some of those hats off
Absolutely.
and push that over to our team members like Dray and the experts that are out there in the PEO space and really help us grow our business. I mean, that's our goal, right? Not only to become more efficient, more effective, and execute better. You okay over there, buddy? Just checking. Stop
Anyway,
breaking the equipment,
I
man.
was
What are you
being attacked
doing?
by the mic, all right?
But this is good. Dray, thank you very much
Yes,
for being
my
here
pleasure.
today. This is excellent information. Is there anything else you want to
No.
cover in the last couple of minutes here?
Definitely appreciate you taking the time to come on and share some of this. Again, the problem is we don't know what we don't know. So part of what we want to do here on the Entrepreneurs Radio Network is to give some of that information to people so that they have the ability to make better, more educated decisions. So thanks for sharing with us today.
Absolutely. My
Appreciate
pleasure.
that.
And one more time, Dray's website would be, of course, the www. I think we all know that by now, right? After
I hope
20
so.
years of the internet. DrayCarson.com, DRAYCARCON.com. And also,
No, that's not how you spell my name.
C-A-R-S-O-N.
I said that, didn't
We said C.
Fools.
That's okay.
Okay, you say it.
DRAYCARSON.
Didn't I say that?
No, you said C-O-N. C-A-R-C-O-N.
Okay, sorry. It's already been
Or
a
you
long
can
day.
reach me at acarson@gnapartners.com.
Or you can also go to the Vets on Media website, and we'll have some information posted about you there as well.
Yeah, so we're about
And make sure you click on the Entrepreneurs Radio Network show while you go on there. As we wrap up today, there are some cool little things that we've got here that we've got to show everybody. This is for our foundation, Go Vets Foundation. We had some really cool shirts made up. And so that you can see this on screen, I'll just cover myself up. It says on the front there, "No Greater Love." It has pictures of our military personnel fighting for freedom. But it also has some information there at the bottom, too, about Go Vets Foundation and about the I Inspire movement. These are some cool shirts that were made up for us. In fact, Dray, we brought you a shirt today. This
cool.
is
the
specifically,
women's version.
Oh, I
you.
love it.
It is a women's version, so that is for you.
Thank you. I'm
And-
going to wear it with honor.
Because we all love each other in this part of the world with our show, we brought one for Matt, and Adam also gets one as well. I'm gonna make sure everybody starts in there.
Adam gets a
It's
small.
legal to throw things at
There you
people
go.
off
It's
screen.
legal to throw things in your life. So if you do anyone wants to purchase this and make a donation to the foundation for veterans that we train and help them start their own businesses, again, it's this kind of a cool shirt. Go to govetsfoundation.org, govetsfoundation.org. For now, this is a great show. Thank you again, Dray, for being here. Shane, as always, it's awesome to have you here and with your expertise and your wisdom. And I am certainly the thorn
Entertainment
amongst the
value.
two roses here today, so this is great. But I'm Brian Hazelgren with Shane Chance on every show, and also with our guest today, Dray Carson. We're going to wrap up, call this a wrap. You're listening to the Entrepreneurs Radio Network show. Make it a great day and a great week ahead. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
It's our future to save. Stand of the brave, the U.S. of A.